Go back to the Middle East now, and Donald Trump is criticizing Israel after strikes on southern Beirut undermined peace talks with Iran. He said on social media the attack should not have happened. Well, Tehran says America isn't living up to its obligations. It comes after Israel launched strikes on Beirut this morning. At least 3 people were killed, several more wounded. Well, let's get more from our military analyst, Sean Bell, who joins me in the studio. And Sean, before I come to you, I just want to read something, some breaking news coming into us from the Reuters news agency. That's from the head of Iranian Parliament's National Security Committee. Now, he said a strong response is coming about the Israeli strike on Beirut's southern suburbs. So the head of the Iranian Parliament's National Security Committee saying a strong response is coming, which ties into the Israelis saying that they were preparing for a strike from Iran. It seems like there's a bit of a déjà vu here.
Yeah, Barbara, good evening. I mean, literally a few hours ago, President Trump's birthday, were Iran going to hand a present to him, get the signature done? It all felt we were rushing towards some sort of deal. But these Israeli strikes on southern Beirut, it's not the first time they've done that. They've claimed this is a stronghold of Hezbollah. That's why they've justified it. It does risk compromising the peace process. The really interesting point is there are reports that saying Prime Minister Netanyahu's done this quite deliberately to try and provoke that. What is clear is President Trump desperately needs an off-ramp to the war. He needs to get the Strait of Hormuz open, get energy prices down, control inflation in the US for domestic reasons, whereas Netanyahu sees a once-in-a-generation opportunity to deal with Hezbollah. He doesn't want this war with Hezbollah to be included in the main deal with Iran. And despite the fact Iran is now threatened to retaliate, the harsh reality is it's going to be a real test of President Trump's influence or indeed control of Prime Minister Netanyahu.
Yeah, because obviously this deal isn't even fully a deal. It's a memorandum of understanding. The main thrust of it initially would be the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, and then they would talk about sanctions, a nuclear deal, etc. So, I mean, even if it's signed, and Donald Trump would say it's amazing and the best deal ever, one would wonder what has actually been achieved by all of this.
Yeah, I think what's going to happen, we're not there at the signature yet, but it feels exactly that question at the moment. Strait of Hormuz opens, that's great. What price will the US have to pay for that? Sanctions relief, unfreezing assets. But as you say, the key issue is nuclear. I mean, what's fascinating is that Iran's always claimed that it has no ambition for a nuclear weapon, whatever we may think about that aim, but it's all about verification process. It's all about negotiation and time. And it's the details that matter. The last time that this was all done, it took nearly 2 years. It's fully expect that to take that long again. But there's no realisation at the moment they're getting anywhere close to deal next. So practically what the war were about. If you look at the costs of the war, though, it's starting to be astronomical. The US, just the military means alone, I think it's about $25 billion they reckon it's cost. If you include the wider, the cost of energy, the cost of inflation, and the repairs that are required, you're up to almost £1 trillion. This flow of arms to Ukraine has dropped dramatically. And if you look at the US casualties, 13 US servicemen died and hundreds are injured. If I look that through the Iranian lens, very difficult to get hard numbers, but we're talking about well over 3,000 Iranians have died as a result of that. Many thousands. That school incident, remember when the school children got killed, the economy, poverty and the like. But Iran, of course, has emerged from this with the leadership still intact. They've still got the Strait of Hormuz in control, and actually they've got a lot of leverage ready for them. So you do wonder what this war has actually achieved.
Yeah, I mean, militarily speaking, though, there's no question that the US is the biggest power out of everyone. And yet we see President Trump, and I found the post on Truth Social very interesting. He's almost trying to coerce Israel not to keep on attacking Beirut, which he already told them not to do, and then they've done it again. He effectively calls the attack disproportionate. He says they were responding to an attack by Hezbollah, but that attack was very small and meaningless. Nobody was hurt, and effectively telling them, stop doing this, but they don't seem to be listening.
No, and I think part of the problem here is they've now clearly got different agendas. Right at the start of the war, they were lockstep together. Now it's very, very different agendas. And therefore, Prime Minister Netanyahu doesn't want to get his. I think President Trump must be sitting back and going, fully expecting to win, superpower at war. That's not deliver success. I think what's fascinating, I think on the 8th of April is when the ceasefire's called. It's when America suddenly realised this military option wasn't working. And actually, history will show that that's the point at which failure happened. I would even argue it happened earlier than that, probably the 1st of March. Why that early? Because the strikes happened on the 28th of February. They initially killed Khomeini and all the leadership. And if they paused then, remember there was the potential for an uprising. The Iranian leadership, number one priority is to survive. If America kept its powder dry then, it might have encouraged a change of tack. They saw through the military action. As a military guy, we've played that before. I've played Iran in those war games. It was entirely inevitable what was going to get to now. So now you end up with Trump needing an off-ramp, Iran feeling emboldened. None of that bodes well for the nuclear negotiations. And I think the history books will be laden with what on earth was this all about?
Or even the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz.
Well, it wasn't an issue before the war.
No, it wasn't.
It absolutely
Certainly
is now.
Sean Bell, a military analyst. Sean, as always, thank you.